money. That's the other question. Well, we have two things we'll discuss today, so the whole class. So, one first mention something about Shavuos. Today, even though it's not Shavuos anymore, it's after Shavuos. These days, up until Sunday, are called makeup days, compensation. Mainly in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, where you had sacrifices to offer on the actual holiday itself. If you didn't make it on the holiday itself, you have a full week to make it up. One of the other reasons why it's called the Festival of Weeks, because you have a whole week to make up what you missed. The novelty of the makeup time is that you can make up what you didn't do on the holiday after the holiday. Unlike Pesach and Sukkot, where you can also make up, but it's within the holiday itself. Pesach has 7 days, Sukkot has 7 days. Or here we have 8. We have 7 days Pesach in Israel, 7 days Sukkot. And if you didn't offer the sacrifices on your first day, you would offer it throughout the entire holiday. At least you're doing it within the same holiday. But Shavuos has something very novel to it, that it's not limited to making up what you missed on the very holiday itself. You can actually make it up the days after the holiday, which is very novel. That is because Shavuos is the holiday. You only have 1 day holiday, unlike all the others that are 7 days. 7 days invite all the differences in life. You have a full week. Shavuos is a 1 day holiday. Why is it a 1 day holiday and not more than 1 day? Because it represents something that can be divided, a connection to God that has no features. On Pesach, we do mitzvahs that are especially related to Pesach, such as eating matzah, not eating chametz, but eating matzah. Sukkahs, we have the lulav and the esrog and sitting in the sukkah. So we don't see so much the idea that we're connected to Hashem. We see it through a prism of a mitzvah, specific mitzvah. So it almost feels like the reason why we're connected to Hashem is through the mitzvah, but not that we are essentially one with Hashem. Shavuos is where God chose us. And choosing means not for any reason that we can explain, not for any virtue that we have, because then it's not free choice. If Hashem chooses us because of our virtues, then He's not choosing us. It's the virtues that we have that are choosing for Him. So when I choose something because of qualities that I see, it's not me choosing. It's the quality that chooses for me. That's not called free choice. Free choice is when you're free to be yourself, free to have nothing pulling you in either direction, and you choose freely one way over the other. That's what happened when the Torah was given. That type of connection can't be expressed in any mitzvah. That's why there are no mitzvahs on Shavuos. All we have is abstaining from doing malacha. Yeah, we have customs, but we don't have any mitzvahs, Torah mitzvahs. All we have is, it's Yom Tov, you can't do any work. We abstain, but there's nothing that we're doing. Because when you do something, it's limited to what you've just done. Your connection to Hashem is limited to the action. But when it's an unlimited connection, it expresses itself in something you don't do. You don't do any work during Shavuos, like you don't do work Pesach. And thus, it's such an incredible connection that it's not limited to making up on the holiday itself. It doesn't have any rules that you have to make it up on a certain time. It can be made up after the holiday is over also. So this is pretty unique, that today also felt you didn't have the proper attitude towards Matan Torah. When Yom Tov took place, you weren't exactly with it 100%. You have full week to make it up, including this Shabbos and up till Sunday. We don't say Tachnun. No, Tachnun is until through Sunday because of these special days. The merry-go-round halacha. You know what that is? This is really the whole class? No one else? Oh, wow. Did I break a record? A small class?
No.
I've been in classes by just by myself before.
Me too.
We'll get to the merry-go-round halacha in a minute. How do you honor your parents when they passed? So let's see the Gemara inside. We'll get to that first. Then we'll go to the interesting. It's a Tosfos, actually. You know what Tosfos is? Commentary on Gemara on the left side of the page. If you look at your first page, you'll see The second page, actually, you'll see on this page, the second page that's not in English. That, Daf Lamed Beis, by the way, page 32, Lave. The heart of Kiddushin, marriage, the heart of marriage. Honoring parents has a lot to do with marriage. Why? Well, based on what I said a while back, that if you honor your parents, you will honor your spouses during intimacy, and then you will have children who will honor you. You want your children to honor you, you have to be thinking about each other, not about someone else or fantasies. I'm getting a little bit so hard to say this, but I said it already once before, so I can say it again. The laws of intimacy, which are related to marriage, of course, are connected to honoring parents. As we see, the fifth commandment, the 10th commandment are honor your parents, number 5. Don't covet someone else's wife, number 10. Which also means someone else's husband, goes both ways. Don't think about someone else. Wow, I only wish you would be like him. I only wish. That's a horrible thing to do, especially at any time during the marriage, especially during intimacy. And that can cause children who will be disrespectful to their parents, believing that these are not my real parents. They didn't think about me. They were just thinking about their fantasy. They had no thoughts. Oh, and I'm zooming. So it's interesting. In the Kedushin, it discusses honoring parents, which is the foundation of having a good marriage. You honor your parents, Hashem will make it that your marriage will also be good, not just and be holy. And when you have a holy intimacy, the children that are born are also holy. We mentioned, just to go over a few things that we mentioned, and we'll go into the Gemara. We did mention in the last past classes about Kibbutz Avim, but non-Jews also honor parents. They're not obligated to do so, but they accepted upon themselves throughout history to honor their parents, morally and ethically. After all, they brought you into this world, they took care of you as a baby. Where's your gratitude? So in the non-Jewish world, it's because of be a mensch. Show gratitude to the people that brought you into this world. Yeah.
Is this biological parents or spiritual parents? Or
Biological parents. They brought you into this world. I'm not going to get into the Jewish parents, non-Jewish parents, and I'll discuss that maybe a little bit later. We have a chance. We did discuss that in a previous class. You weren't here. But let's just cover what's the difference between the Jewish way of honoring parents and the non-Jewish way. The non-Jewish way is just be a mensch, show gratitude. After all, you wouldn't have been here without them. They created you. In the Jewish world, in Yiddishkeit, it's interesting that the Luchos, the tablets, the 2 twin tablets. So the first 5 are man to God, the second 5 are man to man. Where is the commandment of honoring parents? In the second side or the first side? First side. Honoring God? Isn't it honoring a person, your parents? Isn't it man to man, person to person, relationship? So the non-Jewish world, yeah, it belongs on the left side. But the Luchos were given to the Jewish people. And for us, when you honor your parents, you're honoring Hashem. Because your Hashem and your parents were all partners in your existence. In fact, if not for Hashem, your parents, even if they're perfectly healthy, would also not have children. The ability to procreate, the God-given power. So in Yiddishkeit, we're told honoring parents is tantamount to honoring God. It's that powerful. So it's not a mitzvah just between you and your parents, it's between you and Hashem. Let's see the Gemara inside. So the first 2 pages are the Aramaic, the original. The third page is what we're going to do. Take a look at the right side of the page. This side, where it says 31b2. You have it? Yeah. 31b2 on the right side says the Gemara relates a way to honor a parent after the parent is no longer here. So it's 31b2 on the right side of the page. Got it? 31b2, you have it?
I didn't see it in others.
you did cut off. Okay, put it.
You got it? Asi on no, my mistake. Tana Rabbana, the rabbis taught in a brisa. The rabbis taught in a brisa. By now we know what a brisa is. Like an addendum to a Mishnah by the same group of rabbis called Mishnah sages Tanaim, and they discuss things outside of what they learned inside. The outside discussions of the Mishnah are called baraisa. Baraisa actually means bar. Bar in English means except. Baraisa, that which they learned outside of the Beis HaMedrash, discussing the details. So, but the same rabbi, the rabbis of the Mishnah and the rabbis of the Baraisa are the same people. Mechabdai b'chayav u'mechabdai b'mosa. One should honor his father, also means his mother too, his parents during his lifetime or her lifetime, and one should honor him after his death or honor her after his or her death. I just want to throw in one more thing, which I forgot to mention. We also discuss a woman who's married and she's not living with her parents, living in her husband's home, then there's no question she has to follow her husband over her parents, unless her parents, unless the husband rather says, please, I want you to be the kind of mitzvah of honoring your parents, then of course she has the obligation. But if he insists, I want you to do something for me, and the parents are saying, but we need help from you, unless it's an emergency. But if it's not an emergency, then the wife is supposed to honor her husband first. If, however, she's living with her, with her parents, for whatever reason, that's a different story. It doesn't mean that she's not obligated in honoring parents. It means obviously when she's on has a phone call with them, you speak with them with respect, you show feelings of love, but go visit them when their husband needs you, that they're exempt from. Let's see the Gemara inside. So how do you honor your parents afterwards? So here you go. So the Gemara explains how. B'chayav Ketzad, how must one honor his father or mother during the father or mother's lifetime? Hanishma b'dvar aviv l'mokim, if in a certain place one will be heard for the sake of his father. In other words, let's say you want some kind of favor from the government or something, and you know that they respect you, but they also respect your father. Don't say, do it for my sake, do it for my parents' sake. Lo yomar, one should not say, shalachuni b'tfilatmi, dispatch me, let me go on a certain shlichus for my sake. Don't use your own kavod, but rather maharuni b'tfilatmi. Don't say maharuni b'tfilatmi. Hurry up and do what I need for my own sake. After all, I deserve it, but rather for your father or mother's sake. Or pitruni, let me be dismissed, tax-free, or whatever it is. Dismiss me from service. I shouldn't have to go to the army. Don't do that in my own honor, but rather in your parents' honor. Elakulu b'shvil abba. So don't say b'shvil atzmi, miharuni b'shvil atzmi, hurry me along for my own sake, or dismiss me for my own sake, but rather, whatever you want from the government or from people, whoever they are, should be requested for the sake of the father. That's how you honor your father or mother. In addition to, of course, honoring them by feeding them and giving them and clothing them, this is also something that one must do to honor. So whenever you have a certain need, and people respect you because you have a big name in town, you're a rabbi or a rebbitzin, and everyone knows who you are, make sure to have your parents involved in the discussion. Whoever I am, but for the sake of my parents, please do me this favor. Unless the parents are not respected, then it becomes a problem. Because then they're going to say, your parents, then you're hurting them. You're besmirching them, so you don't want to do that. But if you know that they respect your parents, at least as much as they respect you or more, then put yourself aside, your honor aside, and honor them. How about Bimoso? Once they're no longer here, how must one honor his father? Keep on saying father here, and we don't only mean a father, we mean a mother too. How must one honor parents after the father's death or the parent's death? Here's the answer. I think the reason why it says father is because of the following example. If one is citing a Torah statement, he heard from his father. Usually you hear more from your father than your mother when it comes to Torah statements. If one is citing a Torah statement he heard from his father's mouth, Lo Yomar Kach Amar Abba. He should not really say, so said my father. But don't say your father, just father, or mention it by name, or even just say father, but say father, my teacher. Elakach Amar Abba Mori. Rather, he should say, so said my father and my master. Mori means a master. May I be an atonement for his soul. Woo. And we'll soon see this only the first 12 months after the passing of a parent. You're supposed to say, it's called Hareini Kaparat Mishkavo, abbreviated Hakam. See, the Rebbe said those words of the previous Rebbe after the passing of the previous Rebbe for the whole first year. What does that mean? So there's different explanations of what it might mean. One explanation is quite harsh, quite intense. That whatever my parent has to go through, has to suffer in the next world, give me the suffering instead. That's pretty harsh. Or you can say a little lighter. If I'm going to have to go through a hard life, let this hard life that I'm going through also atone for my parents. Whatever they're going through in the next world. Hareini, behold me, kapara, an atonement, mishkavo, of his lying in the next world, meaning while he's living in the next world. Mishkav means lying in bed, but it means lying in his grave. Let me in this world as a child, if I'm going to go through a tough life, let all the things I'm going through atone for him too. Now, normally, it wouldn't work. Stranger is going to say, I'd like to do a mitzvah in honor of this person. There's a question whether that can actually help that person in the next world. Many say that it could, but one thing is for sure, a child for sure has the power to change the destiny of the parent in the next world and cause a minimal suffering, to minimize the suffering of what that someone might go through in the next world. Why? Because if that person has a son or a daughter like you, that's honoring the parent, which is a mitzvah, the mitzvah that you're doing, honoring the parent by saying, I want all my suffering to be an atonement for my parent, that itself, thanks to the parent of raising a child like that. The parents deserve credit for raising a child like this. So you're actually giving a schus to your father and mother by saying, wow, look at the children. They're willing to take upon themselves all the suffering and want all the suffering to be a kapara for the parents. That's powerful. And that's how the schus of a child helps for the parent. Elakach Abba Amamori, Hareini, you'll see this sign again, Hareini, which means, behold, I am, kaparas, an atonement, not kapara, mishkavo, for his soul lying in the grave in the next world, meaning he's in his grave, but the soul is up there, and the soul might be going through who knows what for a while. We don't know how long, and we therefore want to, during that period of time, say whatever my father or mother has to go through, I take upon myself the suffering. Hani mili, but these words, Hareini kaparat mishkavo, are said only within 12 months of his father's death. Once 12 months have gone by, he for sure, however bad that the parents might have been in this world, no one stays in Gehenna more than a year. That's the maximum time. I think the average is 4 or 5 months. Once heard. I don't know where I got that from. But I once heard but no one, no matter how bad you are, you're clean after a full year. Bahani mili, but these words are said only within 12 months of his father's death, or mother's death. Mikan v'elech. From then on, you should say, may his memory be blessed, or her memory be blessed for life in the world to come. Don't use the word Hareini kaparas mishkavo because it sounds like that person is still being punished after a year. No one is that bad. So what you should say is Zichrono Livracha. You've heard that? Zichrono Livracha? Never heard that? No. Zal. Zion, you ever see Zion dash Lamed? It means his memory for blessing. You mention a person, great person, you would say, whatever, a rabbi, Zichrono Livracha. After he mentioned his name, he mentioned this person, let his memory be for blessing. If he's a real tzaddik, you say Zeichet Tzaddik Livracha. But we say Zichrono Livracha for many, many people that were good people. So you should also say that after 12 months. Here's a question that's asked. Do you know how long we say Kaddish for him? How long does a child say Kaddish for his parents during the first year? How long do you say Kaddish after the first year of the passing of a parent? So the male children say Kaddish. For how long? Right. Why only 11 months, not 12 months? 12 months is the maximum time.
You don't want to assume that they'll take the maximum.
Right. We don't want to put them in the category of the maximum, but it'll be dishonorable. So therefore, we quit the 11th be a 12th month. Well, the question is asked here: how come when it comes to Hareini kaparas mishkavo, which also sounds like a kaddish, like you're trying to help their neshama, and that you do for a full 12 months, not just 11 months. Kaddish only 11 months, but Hareini kaparas mishkavo, these 3 magical words. Hareini kaparas mishkavo, that we say full 12 months. Why aren't we afraid of the lack of honor from the parent? So there are three answers to this question. I'll give you one of them. Three answers. Why is Kaddish 11 months? Why is Hareini kaparas mishkavo 12 months, a whole 12 months? The answer is because if you don't say Hareini kaparas mishkavo, it's not because people are going to say, you know what the reason is? Because you don't want to. I've suffered enough from my parents. I don't want any more suffering from my parents. On the contrary, you're dishonoring them by not saying it. Kaddish, why would you want to say Kaddish? There's no harm. You're elevating their soul. What would hold you back? But I know what would hold people back from saying Hareini kaparas mishkavo. You're saying, I would like to suffer for them. Who wants to say that? So people are going to say, I know why you quit the 12th month. 11 months is enough. I don't want to. It's not going to be honoring them. You're going to be dishonoring them by not saying these three words. That's one of the answers. Second answer is that Kaddish is said in public, but these three words are usually said in private. No one hears you. Kaddish is said in a minyan, so everyone hears. That's why you got to be more careful. All right, let's go back to it. Tana Rabbanim, the rabbis taught in the Brisa. The more discussed yet another aspect of honoring parents. The rabbis taught in a Brisa. Again, a Brisa is a group of sages that were discussing the Mishnah outside of the Beis HaMedrash. And they came up with the following rule. Chacham, if you're a Chacham, Nishana Shem Avi V'Shem Rabbi. A sage must change the name of his father and the name of his teacher when attributing a teaching or ruling in their name. In other words, sages usually teach a lot, and they sometimes mention their father. I do that very often. I'm not a sage, but I usually often mention my father, who was a great scholar, phenomenal scholar. I'm not saying it because I'm biased, although I am. Tell you what happened. My father was passing by the Rebbe. My father would come to the Farbrengen, but he'd come late because he was traveling from New Jersey. The Rebbe started the Yontif Farbrengen, the Shavuos Farbrengen, he started before sunset. And the Farbrengen went on, it started like around 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening and went on to 3 o'clock in the morning. The Rebbe's Farbrengen. My father had to wait till it gets dark in New Jersey, 9 o'clock. Around 9, maybe even after 9, and he would arrive 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at the Farbrengen. He missed good part of the Farbrengen. He missed half the Farbrengen. But ever spoke a whole sikha, a pilpul, a very, intricate discussion on the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, laws of Rosh Hashanah. My father didn't even hear the sikha. After the Farbrengen, the Rebbe gives out special bracha. Wine to every. You ever see that? People stand in line, thousands of people, takes hours, and the Rebbe, after speaking for 7 hours, just think of that, with pour like this for 3-4 hours. The Jews all over, Borough Park would come in, Williamsburg would come in. My father also was one of the people that were there. He comes to the Rebbe, stops him. The Rebbe smiles and says, I spoke about this and this and I don't know if I'm right. Probably tomorrow, because after Yom Tov is always a gathering of rabbinical sages, Rosh Yeshivas that discuss Torah the following day after Shavuos. My father had no plans of coming; he wasn't invited. But the Rebbe tells him, probably tomorrow you're going to talk about what I discussed. I don't know if I'm right. Discuss it. My father didn't know what to do. He went over to Rabbi Khan, who was the genius, who had a photographic memory and remembers the Rebbe's words word for word by heart. Although the Rebbe spoke for 6 hours, he would review the Farbrengens like he just heard it right now, word for word. And Rabbi Khan reviewed the whole Farbrengen. My father, he went home, got home 4 a.m., tired. He had no chance to even think about the subject. Just knew what the Rebbe talked about, but he had no chance of, just going into it. On his way back, my father drove from New Jersey around 2 o'clock in the afternoon the next day, after not sleeping the whole night. He's very tired. And as he's driving, he thought of something. Oh, I think I understand what the Rebbe meant. And I think I can bring proofs that the Rebbe is right. And that's what he spoke about at the Kiddush Torah. So for someone to be able to do that while he's driving, with no preparation, being caught off guard, that shows on a very special person. The previous Rebbe called my father my scholar. Scholar. Okay, so pretty big. They told my father also when they were in Atzvatz. My father was Brooklyn boy, born in Brooklyn. He's a Yankee. Father's a Yankee, American, born in America. In Brooklyn, yeah, I don't know, in Crown Heights, but in, yeah, I'm not sure where, I think in, East New York, I'm not sure where, but not, oh, one second, hold on a second, no, he moved to Crown Heights afterwards, my sister, older sister was born in Crown Heights. It was on New York Avenue. Father, yeah, so. So. That's the question. You know. Forgot what I just forgot what I was gonna say. Probably better. Okay. So when you mention your father's name, that's supposed to, you mention your father in your discussion, don't mention his name. It's not this, not honorable to mention your father by his name. So whenever a sage would discuss, he would say, wouldn't mention the name, but he would change, he would just say, my father, but he wouldn't mention the name of the father. Not honorable to mention your father's name. Or likewise, your teacher that taught you all of your wisdom, you should also respect that person by not mentioning, yeah, Shlomo, Moshe, Rabbi, Harav, and Harav, going, whatever, but never mention just by their first name. However, in those days, they had a translator. You know, they had a translator who would not just translate, but would explain to the public what this Chacham was talking about. Because he was talking in up there, and the interpreter was like an intermediary. He understood what the guy was saying, and he would digest it and explain it in his own words. So and he would be repeating the words of the rabbi, of the teacher. But although the teacher did not mention his father's name, the translator should mention his father's name. But the translator doesn't have to respect the father of the sage. The sage has to respect his father, but the translator can call the sage's father by his name. So someone is giving over a lesson. He mentions his father, not by name. The translator does mention the name of the father, even though his job is to translate, he mentions the name. Okay. I just want to go quickly through this. I want to get to the next piece. Chacham Mishanen Shem Abu Shem Rabbi Turgaman, a spokesman, meaning an interpreter. Eino Mishanen Lo Shem Abu Lo Shem Rabbi. He doesn't change the name of the father or the name of his teacher. The rabbi says it as it is. That's this page here. The next page. Okay, I want to skip a little bit here. Let's go to the next page, but the right side of the next page. The Tana Rabbanon. Tana Rabbanon, the rabbis taught in a brisa. You're supposed to revere your parents and honor. What does revering mean? What is a proper reverence from one's parents and what is proper honor? What's the difference between honoring parents and showing respect and revering? How do you fulfill each mitzvah? So it's this short page here, this page here. On the right side on top. What is proper reverence and what is proper honor? Mora, reverence means that one may not stand in his father's place. Father is a certain place where he stands at the assembly of the people of town. The son may not stand there during prayer. Where your father davens, the exact location, even though he's not there, don't daven where he davens. Show respect, keep that place vacant. Of course, the father is allowed to waive his honor. If a parent wants to waive his honor, says, please, my son, don't worry about it. I want you to, you could daven in my place, then the child may do so. However, the parent can override his mechila. The next day, the father can say, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want you to play in my place. Not like once you're meichel, it's over. Once you forgive your honor, you can't renege. You can renege. But if the father wants to say, the parent wants to say to the child, you don't have to respect us over here. You don't have to stand. You don't have to stand where you want. You could stand where I stand. I give you my place to sit. I give you my place to stand. Then you're allowed to. But ordinarily, you're not allowed to. People don't know this rule. This generation doesn't know this rule. I never sat in my father's seat. If he wasn't there, the seat was not touched. You sit somewhere else. You don't sit in your father's seat. This generation doesn't know that. My kids always sit in my seat. Okay, I'm not my father. I understand that, but they always sit, and then as soon as I come, okay, you need a seat. That's not the shouldn't be sitting there in the first place, even when I'm not around. But that's how it is. This generation is not exactly the way it used to be. So Mora lo ome b'mkoma, you don't stand in this place. But lo yoshe b'mkoma, you don't sit in this place. Below Sosa as the Borov. You're not allowed to contradict your father. No, it's not true. You're wrong. You're not allowed to do that. Even if you are right and he is wrong or she is wrong, you're not allowed to contradict them. But you could say, wait a second, yeah, then you explain this. Like you could question what your father is saying or mother is saying, and that will bring them to the understanding that they made a mistake. That you're allowed to do, but you're not allowed to say, you're wrong, no. Or even respectfully, I don't think you're right. I think you're making a mistake is also disrespectful. Ask the question and say, can you help me understand this? No, I accept what you're saying, but then how do you reconcile this? Oh, you're right, very good. And you give your parents nachas by showing them, first of all, respect, and that you quote them. Parents are not jealous of their children. One thing you're not jealous of. You're not jealous of students. You don't mind if your student does better than you, and you're not jealous. Everyone's jealous of everyone, except for your children and your students. That's the rule. So the father sees that his child is smarter than him, get stumped him. Parents love to be stumped by their children, but not in a rude way, rash way. You have to do it respectfully. Yeah. Below machrio, you're not allowed to offer an opinion. Your father's arguing with somebody. There's an argument going on between your father or your mother and someone else, and you say, "I think my father's right," and it's disrespectful. Well, you're the referee. You know, they're two equals, and you're the one who decides who's right. It's also disrespectful to your father. So don't argue with him, don't contradict him, and don't start to offer an opinion in front of him. That's called honoring. I'm sorry, that's called revering, rather. That is called revering. It's mainly a negative thing. Don't do things that are very disrespectful. Kibbud, honor, is a positive thing. What is kibbud? Honor means that one must give his father food and drink. Malbish umechasa, dress him and cover him. Machnas v'motzi, bring him and take him out. Help them walk, help them out, feed them, sometimes clothe them. Now the question is, with whose money? So we discussed this. Let's see it inside, and here's where I'm going to get to the merry-go-round Shaila. Iboiluhu, the merry-go-round halacha, which has no answer. It keeps on going around and around in circles, and whatever you say, you end up saying something else, which ends up causing you to never have you can never get a clear answer. It just keeps on going around and around in an endless cycle. We'll soon see what that is. It's in the Tosfos. Iboiluhu, they inquired. Listen to this. Next page. So it's this page here. It says "me shall me" on top. You have it. Me shall me, from whose assets are the needs of the parents provided? Big machlokas here. Rav Yehuda Omar. By the way, whenever it says Rav without Rebbe, it means a Gemara sage, a Talmud sage, not a Mishnah sage. If it says Rebbe, it's usually a Mishnah sage, but not always. But Rav can never, if you have Rav without the extra Yud, Rebbe, it doesn't say Rebbe, it says Rav, not the Rebbe, then it's for sure a Talmudic sage, meaning the Gemara sages that came after the Mishnah. So Rav, there is also Rebbe Yehuda. There's a Rebbe Yehuda also, and it's Rav Yehuda. They don't live at the same time. Rav Yehuda Omar. Rav Yehuda says, Mishal Bain, that the son has to offer his father from his own assets. That's how you honor them. You pay for it, if you can. Rab Nosson Bar Oshia Omar. Rab Nosson Bar Oshia says, Mishal Av, that only from the fathers. Father is not a poor man. He has his own assets. Take from his own assets and pay and honor him with clothing and food. Buy with his own assets. Take his credit card and use his credit card. You're obligated to help him and to serve him, but not with your money. The halacha is like the second opinion. Okay, that's the halacha. Now, the rabbis rendered a decision to Rav Yirmiyah, and some say it was to Rav Yirmiyah's son, Commander Amar Mishal Av, that we don't have to. The halacha is we're more lenient. The child can take his father's credit card, his father's funds, and use them to honor him or honor his mother as well. In accordance with the one who says that it is from the father's assets, the child is obligated, but not from his own assets. And the Gemara goes through many challenges here. Now, I'm not going to go into the challenges here because it's too complicated for a second to the last class of the year. But I will. It's interesting, but maybe next Friday we'll get around to it. Well, next Friday, the last class, I want to have a little bit more of a Brennan style class. But take a look at the first page again. Not the first page, the second page, or the Hebrew page. This page. Here's an interesting question with that. According to the one who says that the child has to pay from his own assets. You have it? We have a problem that's going to sound funny. If you say the child, what happens if the father says, I want you to honor me by, I need your help. I want you to make me lunch. But father, I have a mitzvah to do. Someone will have a lost object. And if I run right now, I'll save the guy. I know how I can retrieve that object. This belongs to somebody. If I don't go right now, that person will never find it. So if I serve you, I'll be losing out on the mitzvah of returning a lost object. The father has to waive his obligation. The obligation of honoring a father is waived in favor of the child. If you say the child has to spend money, I'm sorry. The halacha is that the halacha is that, again, if the father says, I don't want you to do the mitzvah, I want you to serve me better, what there's a mitzvah to do, you do the mitzvah. That's obvious. There's no one arguing that. Okay. Put that aside. Mitzvah overweighs the father or mother's wish. Number two, you have a lost object, and someone else has a lost object. You lost something too, and someone else lost something. Are you obligated to forego your own lost object to retrieve the other person's, or you can work on your own? The answer is yours comes first. Why should I lose I lost something? Why should I have a loss just to help the other person? I have the same loss too. Why is he more important than me? That's how halacha. Halacha is that you come first. I mean, you want to be a tzaddik, but you're not obligated. You have the right to say, I also lost something. I come first. Okay. So now we know who comes first. You over. So when someone else lost something, it's a big mitzvah to return, but not if you also lost something. What happens if you lost something? Forget about, there's no one else involved, just you. You lost something, and you can retrieve it if you go right now, retrieve it. If you wait 5 minutes, it's going to be sold. Your father's saying, please stay home, make me lunch. Huh?
Stay.
Now we have a merry-go-round. Watch this. So all three things are happening. Father is saying, give me lunch. You lost an object and your friend lost an object. What do you do? Let's start the merry-go-round. The halacha is that your father loses out on the mitzvah of Hashavas Haveda. You have someone else lost an object, right? It's a mitzvah. Father, I have a mitzvah to do. Okay. But you also have a lost object. So what happens? You win. Okay. Because I lost an object also. Then father says, wait a second. Now it's between me and you. And what's the ruling we had before? According to one opinion, the child himself has to go through a loss, has to take a loss to serve his father. If I have to pay for my father, that means I have to also forfeit my lost object for him. If you say that the child is obligated to pay for his father's needs, that also means that the child is obligated to forfeit his lost object for the sake of honoring his father. But wait a second. If the father wins over the child, then the other guy wins over the father. And then you win over the other guy. And then your father wins over you.
You do.
Well, what do you do? Well, Tosfos answers something very novel. He says, even according to the one who says you have to pay from your own funds to honor your father, that's only if your father derives benefit from your loss. Your money goes to his benefit. But if your money does not go to his benefit, in the case of a lost object, if I lose the object, does my father gain from that lost object? I lose. He doesn't gain. He gains from the supper I'm going to give him, but he doesn't gain from my loss. So everyone agrees that although you are obligated to feed your father with your money, you're not obligated to forfeit a lost object for your father. And therefore you win over your father tells you, I don't want you to go after this lost object. You have a right to say, I don't want to lose. I'm not obligated to have a loss to honor you. I feel very bad. I'll honor you later, but not now. That's the answer to the merry-go-round. Where does it stop? The answer is that when is it that a child has to pay with his own assets? Only if the father gains from the child's loss. What you are losing is the father's gain. But if you're going to lose something, your father gets no pleasure out of your loss. He gets pleasure out of the food you give him. It's indirect. That's the halacha. Okay. But what happens? Oh, wow. There's one last thing. What happens if the father tells you, I want you to give me food? There's a lost object, but someone else can also do it. You can hire, you can send someone else to do the mitzvah of returning the lost object. Then, of course, you honor your father. If someone else can do it, then the mitzvah of honoring father comes first.
Is it only with the lost object or is it with any mitzvah opportunity?
Any mitzvah opportunity, including lost object. Yeah. There's so much to talk about. There's not enough time, so we'll stop here. I'll let you go. One more class, which I will end on, we'll end the discussion of, there's much more to it than actually what we finished. Story with the father trying to test his child to see if he gets angry. Was he allowed to do that? Purposely ripping something, ripping his shirt to see if he's getting testing to see what kind of character he has. The Gemara asked, are you allowed to do that? You're causing him a stumbling block. Very interesting Gemara coming up. We'll have to wait for next week for the last class of Ibadov Aim, the last Friday period of the year. Then we have the last Tuesday coming up. Not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, graduation day, I believe. Tuesday. So again, wow, the year went fast. Looks like that. Why is my final crazy? You have plans for next year? You were at the L'chaim last night? You know her?
Yeah.
You know from last year? Big real. Phenomenal. How long did it go? How long were you there for?
It went, I think until like 10, I wasn't there till 10:30, but I know someone went at 10:30 and they were just, people were leaving.
Oh.
I was there until like 9:30. And then
You went with each other? I saw you. Believe me, I came up unfortunately.
we went together and then planned on walking 2 blocks and ended up at the museum.
Okay. Great. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Year. What you plan for next year?
And you're I'm working for Mazel Day School,
Great, that.
a shelf away.
Slept away.
Yeah. Like an hour on the subway, but not so bad. Have time to like, I can even your dog and your pretty fast on the subway, so honestly, I'm fine with
What
long.
about you?
I'm not sure. I'm updating my resume.
We need to finish that.
Maybe still looking for the dorm.
Or a Mazel Tov? What about you, Bobby?
Mine's, I can find the status and then I will. Yeah, I think I will take mine.
It was a great, it's not over yet, for a year. Special, the show months.
Can the year just like not end?
What?
Could the year just not end? What about?
Yeah,
I
Billy.
get my highest, we have issues there, people don't have their packages of problems, and we don't come here and forget about all things. Good girls. It's very unfortunate. I don't give compliments, I'll tell you one thing, ask the boys. I don't throw it on compliments. I'm quite rude sometimes.
Well, then a special thing.
They don't believe him, the rudest guy I've ever met. They're not wrong. Not everyone, some of them.
You good job, Ed.
Good job.
It's fun.